They say comfort is the enemy of awareness. And I didn't understand what that meant until I had comfort ripped out from under me. My life, at the time, was exactly what most people would describe as put together. Steady 9-to-5 job at a mid-sized software company. A rental apartment in Denver with just enough furniture to look intentional, but not enough to feel permanent. My routines were solid, borderline robotic. Same cereal every morning, same route to work, same 3 shirts on rotation unless it was laundry day. And Vanessa, she was the only unpredictable thing in my life. Unpredictable in that good way, like weather that surprises you with sunshine when you were expecting clouds. We met at a mutual friend's birthday party, one of those half-dead social events where everyone's looking at their phones or their drinks trying to escape the silence. She crashed into me, literally, with a red Solo cup full of cheap beer and said something like, "You should get better shoes." I looked down. She wasn't wrong. She smiled. I didn't even care about the beer anymore. That was it. Fast forward a year, she moved in. Fast forward 2 more, and we had merged lives, groceries, toothpaste, Spotify accounts, and Friday night habits. I'm not going to say it was some fairy tale. We argued. She hated how I left dishes to soak, like that was an actual cleaning method. I hated how she talked through movies. But when it was good, it was really good. She had this laugh that hid in layers, like it rolled through her chest before spilling out, and sometimes she'd grab my arm mid-laugh like her body couldn't contain it. That stuff stays with you. That sound. That feeling of belonging. So when I got told I'd be flying to Seattle for a 3-month project, I was hesitant. We'd never spent more than a few days apart. But the opportunity was solid. Extra pay, visibility, a chance to climb the ladder. She told me it was fine. Said she was proud of me. Said she'd keep the plants alive. The night before I left, we stayed up way too late watching reruns of a show we'd seen a dozen times. She rested her head on my chest, and I remember thinking, we've got this. Whatever this was, it felt real. It felt like home. At the airport, I kissed her goodbye. She smiled. Said, "It'll go by fast." And I swear to God, for a half second, her smile flickered. Not from sadness, but hesitation. Something I couldn't name. I ignored it. The flight was uneventful. Middle seat. Guy next to me snored like he was punishing the air for existing. I landed in Seattle tired, missing her, already checking my phone like some clingy teenager. She texted, "Made coffee. Miss you already." I smiled. Everything felt okay. I had no idea that that text was the last time I'd feel that kind of peace. Because from that moment on, everything started to change. Seattle was gray. Not just the sky, everything. The buildings, the air, the people's eyes on the subway. Even the coffee had a bitterness that didn't come from beans. I'd rented a furnished corporate apartment. The kind of place that felt like no one ever actually lived there. Just passed through. Beige walls. Generic art. A couch that looked soft but sat like stone. There was a smell too, manufactured clean, like lemon-scented lies. Every day started the same. Alarms. Emails. Elevator rides with people who spoke in acronyms. Meetings that felt like group therapy for overpaid project managers. And then nights, long, quiet, unremarkable. I'd call Vanessa most evenings. At first, the calls were lively. She'd tell me about the cat knocking over her glass of wine, or the new girl at the yoga studio who wore socks with sandals. We'd laugh. She'd make that same layered laugh. And for a few minutes, it felt like I was home. But slowly, the calls got shorter. Less detail. Less warmth. More ahas and yes. Some nights, I'd call and it'd go to voicemail. She'd text back hours later. "Sorry, passed out early." And I believed her. I wanted to believe her. You don't assume betrayal from someone whose toothbrush sits next to yours. But my gut, it started whispering. At first, it was small, a twitch in my stomach, a tightness in my chest that I blamed on bad takeout. Then it got louder, like something inside me was screaming from behind a soundproof wall. She stopped sending selfies. Vanessa used to send pictures of everything. Her breakfast, the cat in weird positions, a meme she thought I'd laugh at. Now radio silence. I remember sitting in that cold apartment, staring at our last photo together on my phone. Her hugging me at the airport. And I started noticing things I didn't before. The way her body leaned slightly away. The grip of her hands, not tight, not desperate. Casual. Disconnected. I told myself I was being dramatic. Overthinking. Missing her too much. But even my voice sounded fake inside my head. One night, I woke up at 3 a.m., drenched in sweat. I'd had a dream. nothing specific. Just her standing in a dark room, facing away. I kept calling her name, but she wouldn't turn around. And then she was gone. I remember sitting there in that stiff chair, wrapped in a thin corporate blanket, and thinking, what if she already left me, and just hasn't told me yet? I started imagining scenarios. Not full-on affairs, not yet. More like emotional distance. A coworker who made her laugh in a way I didn't anymore. An old flame sliding back into her DMs while I was 1,300 miles away. And the worst part, I couldn't do anything. I was locked in a different city, with a fake smile in morning meetings and an aching stomach at night. There was this one moment that stuck with me. It was a Tuesday. I had just finished a call with upper management. They'd complimented my performance. I hung up, muted the team's window, and instinctively opened our message thread. Nothing. The last message was from me. Hope your day's going okay, Red Heart. Seen. No reply. 3 hours ago. That little scene indicator, God, it hit harder than any insult. Because it wasn't just what she didn't say. It was what I knew she was feeling, distance. Indifference. Disconnection. You can't measure emotional abandonment with a calendar. But it creeps in. Slow like rust. And by the end of the second month, I stopped waiting for her to call. Because deep down, I already knew the woman I was coming home to wasn't going to be the one I left behind. Coming home felt off. Vanessa hugged me like a friend, not a partner. Smiled, asked about the flight, cracked a few routine jokes. But her eyes never really landed on me. The apartment looked mostly the same. But little things had changed. Furniture moved, new framed prints she used to hate, a new energy I couldn't explain. That night, she lay in bed beside me, scrolling her phone, screen glowing off her face. No kiss. No warmth. Just good night, like we were roommates. Over the next few days, it only got worse. She was polite, calm, cordial, but never close. I noticed the way she kept her phone face down. The way she avoided eye contact when I asked about her day. How her laugh sounded rehearsed. Everything looked normal, but nothing felt real. Something had shifted, and I didn't need proof to know it. I could feel the distance like a third person living in our apartment. There's a moment when suspicion hardens into certainty. It doesn't come with fireworks or dramatic confessions. It arrives like cold water on the back of your neck, slow, creeping, impossible to ignore. It was Wednesday. I remember because I'd started counting days like a prisoner. Vanessa said she had errands. Groceries. Maybe the vet. I nodded, said cool, kept my voice even. She left in a hurry. Keys. Purse. Phone. Didn't ask if I needed anything. Didn't kiss me goodbye. 20 minutes later, I checked the fridge. It was full. Cat food. Stocked. Nothing was missing. No errands needed running. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the condensation on a glass of water I hadn't touched, and thought, okay, we're doing this. I wasn't proud of it, but I followed her. Not in some thriller movie way. No tranquat, no binoculars. Just me. My car. 3 cars behind. Low music. Cold hands on the steering wheel. She drove across town. Took a left where she'd never needed to go before. Ended up parked outside a boutique cafe on the other side of the city. Not her style. Too expensive. Too curated. She walked in like she'd done it a dozen times. Comfortable. Effortless. I waited in my car. 10 minutes passed. 15. Then I saw him. Marcus. I didn't know his name then. Not yet. But I knew the type. Beard just long enough to look intentional. Rolled up sleeves. That smug, relaxed posture that screams I've already won. He slid into the booth across from her like he'd been doing it for years. She smiled. Not just any smile. That smile. The one I hadn't seen in months. The kind that starts in the eyes, curls the lips naturally, almost involuntarily. The kind of smile people reserve for someone they miss. And suddenly everything made sense. The cold return. The empty touch. The phone with a new passcode. It wasn't a maybe anymore. It wasn't a feeling. It was fact. They talked for an hour. Laughed. She leaned forward at one point and touched his hand. And I sat in that car, engine off, watching the version of her I hadn't seen since before the trip. Alive. Present. Warm. Just not for me. I didn't confront her that night. Didn't scream or throw things. I made pasta. Set the table. Asked about her day. She lied. She told me traffic was awful. Said she got distracted. Said she forgot the cat litter. And I smiled. Not because I believed her, but because now I was listening for something different. Not for the words, but for the space between them. She didn't ask me about my day. She didn't touch me when we passed each other in the hallway. She barely looked up when I placed the plate in front of her. I watched her eat in silence. Fork, bite, chew, scroll. And I thought, you really don't even see me anymore, do you? That night, I laid awake again, listening to her breathe beside me. Every breath a reminder that her body was here, but her mind was somewhere else, with someone else. And in that darkness, I made a decision. I needed to know everything, because if I was going to break, I wanted to break with my eyes wide open. I wasn't even looking for it. She left her laptop open, just for a second, and there it was, a draft email. Not sent, just sitting there. Raw. Marcus, I miss what we had. Being around Eric feels like pretending. That name. Marcus. The ex she never mentioned. The one I wasn't supposed to know existed. I searched. Found him. Social media. Mutual friends. And pictures, old ones. Him and her. Hugging. Kissing. Laughing. It wasn't just cheating. It was a reconnection. A return to someone she'd once loved more than me. And maybe never really stopped. And as I stared at that screen, I realized something even worse. She'd checked out long before I left. I just hadn't noticed. She said it like she was ordering coffee. No build-up. No emotion. I'm pregnant. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The timing said everything. We hadn't touched each other in weeks. And in that second, I knew. It wasn't mine. The woman I thought I'd build a future with had not only betrayed me. She'd done it in the one way that changes everything permanently. I walked out. Drove for hours. Didn't cry. Didn't scream. Just kept hearing her voice in my head. I'm pregnant. 3 words that ended the life I thought I was living. I booked the test quietly. Didn't ask her permission. Didn't need it. I already knew the answer. I just needed it on paper. 7 days later, the envelope came. I opened it alone. In my car. On a quiet street. Probability of paternity. 0.00%. Not mine. Just like I knew. But seeing it in ink hit different. I sat there for a while. Didn't move. Didn't think. Then I folded the paper, put it back in the envelope, and drove home. I wasn't angry. I wasn't broken. I was done. I thought the DNA test would end it. But the law had other plans. Turns out, in my state, if you're listed as the father, even by default, you can still be held responsible. Support, rights, obligations, all of it. It didn't matter that the child wasn't mine. It only mattered that I'd been there, living with her, trusting her. I filed a challenge immediately. Court dates. Paperwork. Fees. I turned from victim into defendant. She didn't fight. Didn't apologize either. Just showed up quiet and blank. Like none of this ever really mattered to her. But it mattered to me. Because I wasn't going to pay for someone else's betrayal. The courtroom was cold, literally and otherwise. I sat still while lawyers spoke for me, reducing months of pain into neat legal phrases. When the judge finally read the decision, I barely breathed. Not the biological father. No financial responsibility. That was it. No applause. No dramatic moment. Just a verdict. I didn't smile. Didn't look at Vanessa. Just stood up and left. Outside, the sky looked the same, but I didn't. Because after all the lies, the silence, the war, I finally had one thing I hadn't felt in months. Freedom. Life didn't go back to normal. It just adjusted. She vanished. No apology that mattered. Just a message I never answered. I focused on work. On moving forward. Some days still felt heavy, but most got lighter. The silence, once painful, became peaceful. I stopped wondering what could have been. Started focusing on what's next. I'm not the same man I was before all this. But I'm still standing. Still breathing. And that's enough.